As you know, I've been complaining about the horrendous ping rate between Perth and Chicago, something like 290 milliseconds, and yet to Singapore or Sydney, which is about the same distance, it's around 63 milliseconds on a good day. To make a comparison between the two, I needed to compare the same two tanks. And one of the tanks that requires a good ping rate to perform well, at least that's what I think on the American server, is the Cromwell. I've noticed I'm not playing that nearly as well there. But of course, to be able to compare a Cromwell, I needed to have one on the Southeast Asian server as well. So I've had to grind one up. And this is that story.
Time to roll out. Let's get the show on the road!
Hello, this is Dalemo, and welcome to the Southeast Asian server, specifically the British tech tree, where I inherited a Cruiser Mark III from my first 1400 games, and I'd played enough of it that I was pretty close to maxing out most of the items and able to move on to the next one. It's a dreadful tank, really. It can't hit anything, the firepower is shocking, it can't stand a hit, but then neither can most things at Tier 2. The mobility is average, even Wargaming concede that. The concealment is pretty dreadful and it can't see anything. But let's see how we go with this. Well, you'll be pleased to hear that while we're going to play a few videos from lower tier, we're going to go through them as quickly as we possibly can. So, whacking on the speed here as we trundle up to try and take the hill position. Fortunately, some of the rest of the team have come here. That guy there on his side. Let's see if we can maybe back up and give him a little bit of a hand to get himself righted and take some shots of opportunity at the same time for our first kill. Well, a little frustrating playing this game, to be perfectly honest, at this tier. It's basically point and shoot. Most things can pen most things most of the time. The machine guns will blatter you down. It's a little bit tricky. Sometimes you can get clever here, like you can wait till this guy's turned his turret the other way and then, lean over and maybe take a few shots to finish him off. Bang, bang, gone. Reload is basically a click because you're probably going to find it quicker to fire. Same thing over here. Come out, aim up, shoot over there. We've got him, as our crew announces. The next tank we want to have a look at is the Cruiser Mark IV. Now this one's a little bit more interesting, partly because it has that British pom-pom, which will fire 2 shots rapidly and then have the magazine with 2 more shots, another mouse click, and out they go. You'll see in this I'll actually get rid of or reload the magazine sometimes by just pressing the mouse button because it's basically easier to do. Survivability is, well, nix. Mobility, a little bit better than the Cruiser 3, but not a lot, and concealment and spotting are still pretty dreadful. And welcome to El Haloof as we take our Tier 3 out, and well, you'll be pleased to hear we're going to race through this one as well, because like Tier 2, Tier 3 games, they tend to be race around, point your gun at something, hope it hits because your aiming's not going to be too special. Everything's got to be close to be able to spot it. Someone will come and blat you, you may well not survive it. Do your best. At the same time, try and get those hits in. It's true at all levels, but Tier 3, it's such a random event. As that poor old Lux found as I drove around the corner and basically rammed him. Was it a Lux or a PZ-1C? All over too quickly, as far as I can tell here. And, well, we get an opportunity to take a shot. Look at this. We'll aim up on the front ever heavy. We'll aim for his mantlet. Yep, and we go straight through a heavy with our little pom-pom gun. And, well, why don't we do it again? Why not? Because we can. That's what heavies are for. Shooting straight through their mantle to kill them, right? Welcome to Tier 3. Let that be a lesson to you. Don't drive a heavy very much in low-tier games if you can possibly afford it. because they're not something you can afford to do. Like looking at the minimap. No one worries about the minimap. I'm the only one that bothered coming back to our base. The rest of them pushed on with the effect that you might expect. Yes, they got wiped out. Came back to the base to have a go at cleaning it out, but as it turns out, the guys that were already here did a fair job. So we'll race across to the other side and finish off the 2 remaining TDs. A little back and forward to find out where they are, see if we can light them up. And there they are, and in fact he's going to get away. That first one did. Get some shots onto the back of the M8. Let's go chase him. Auto lock, because you might as well auto lock. You're not going to be able to aim at anything in particular, and at least that'll maximise the chance of hitting a tank. The Covenator, the next tank in the series, is pretty similar to the Cruiser 4, and it performs in a very similar sort of way with a similar sort of gun, just a little bit more penetration on it. Survivability is still hideous. The mobility, it's there, but it's just very, very average, in fact, and you can't feel like you're able to drive the tank around and do that much. Concealment marginally better, and spotting still pretty dreadful. Now, the Covenator was a tank I actually did have a video up already for, so we're just going to show the highlights of this particular game. If you want to see this video, it's there on our channel. Check out the videos in the replay list. Well, there we go, with kill number 3 already as we rapidly dispatch some more tanks. This was a particularly good game for the Covenator, and the Covenator, it started feeling a little bit more like a real tank. The aiming circle was just a little bit better. Felt that you could come up and, you know, have some sort of an impact in the game and actually start playing it. Here we go for a bit of a loop around. Managed to knock down the first, coming up against a Hetzer. Difficult, but we're behind him. 2 shots in. Let's see if we can maneuver ourselves to get behind him. Slow to turn and finish off the Hetzer. You know, here we're starting to feel like we're really playing. You know, we can use cover. I think most of all it's because the aiming circle is just a little bit better. There we go, finishing off a tank stalled above a ridge there. Probably didn't see me coming. What I hadn't realised here was that there was a Lux down below that had managed to flip over. Otherwise I could have come back out and taken some early shots at him and moved on more quickly. Our Lux has a crack, and I said it was a Lux that was fallen over. It looks like it's another tank, a PZ. Never mind, he's now down as well. And moving on through this game rather rapidly, because we've already seen this video elsewhere. Getting rid of GMC as it tries to ram us for... well, I'm not too sure why he was trying to ram us then, because clearly he was going to lose that encounter. Keeping in cover here, and that pretty much concludes this game. And the next tank is the Crusader. Now this is, at tier 5, it really is pretty dreadful. The firepower is nothing. Compare that with, say, a T67, where that 76mm cannon will just about pen every tank it's likely to come across at its tier. Here you're competing up to tier 7 tanks, and you've got no chance in penning many of the tier 5s, let alone penning a tier 7 tank. The survivability is, well, dreadful. Mobility is extremely average, and concealment and spotting is poor. I did not enjoy this tank, so imagine my surprise when I found myself with a mark of excellence at the end. And welcome to Abbey as we take the Crusader out. As I mentioned, not exactly my favourite tank. And, you know, tier 5 games, well, they're getting to be real games, so you're actually having to think about tactics. But we'll still speed this one up, because I don't think it's all that exciting, particularly in the early phases of this game. I'm going to take the back road, the little side entrance into the Abbey at the top there. There's a Shaffy firing away at him. I get nudged. Who are you? Yes, Hetzer telling me to fall back, and he just pushes me forward just to make sure that I get the message that he wants to come up that particular route. Of course, in the meantime, I don't think he managed to put me off the shots, and that Shaffy is down. So take some more shots here at Well, it's moving so quickly I can't even tell you what the tank was, but does it really matter? We know what the drill here. Come up to the side of the Abbey, take some shots at any enemy that are, silly enough to get themselves exposed here, or as they take a risk driving past. And as you can see, action still pretty thick and fast. They've managed to cruise right down the 8 and 9 line, and they're threatening our cap coming up from that side, although out in the open, a little bit vulnerable to some of my shots. Marder 38T managed to pull back and cover, and as you can see, that attack down that flank has been successfully beaten off by the team. As it turns out, I'm not doing particularly well in this game. Most of my shots have missed, and the circle, the aim circle, seems to bloom fairly large, and because of the position I've adopted here, trying to take a lot of the shots at long range. This is not a sniping tank, shouldn't be treated as one, and even on the rear of this Leopard I'm bouncing lots of shots. It's excruciatingly frustrating. Think what a T-67 would have been able to do in the same position. And then remarkably enough, bouncing off the rear of a Leopard, we managed to penetrate a KV-2 whose turret may have been almost flat to us, but then again he could also have been angled because I'm sure it was turning at the time. Nevertheless, let's speed this game through and see if we can make some further impact. Not much happening in the Abbey. We'll come down to some ground here, get hit by a Dicker Max, and of course that'll take most of your health when you're a Covenator because you ain't particularly strong. Dicker Max is going to try and come around and deal with us, see if we can finish off that one. Alas, we can't. A little bit of poke and shoot's about to take place here. Dicker Max side on, we should be able to deal with him. It's a matter of whether we can get side on, depending on how many other tanks are involved. But in fact, he's the only one. So we'll come around, see if we can get rid of him from the other side. And yes, he's got his back to us. Blat, blat, blat. And someone else gets the kill. Well, wouldn't you know it? So you can imagine my surprise after after talking about how badly the Crusader sucked when I found myself with the mark of excellence when I looked at the game results, and here it is. And in that particular game, nothing special, class 2 mastery and a Confederate, which is okay, I guess. And finally, we've made it to the Cromwell. But here's a surprise. I had forgotten what it's like to play with a crew that, don't have any skills, that aren't maxed out. Playing at around 80% in the first game, and relatively stock because, I didn't have the free experience to play with on this non-premium account and playing these lower tiers. You're just not accruing the free XP fast enough to make it worthwhile not playing some games without the free XP. Otherwise you'd be stuck playing dreadful tanks forever. So the early games on the Cromwell were less than impressive. I tried to do things that I thought I could do because I could do them easily on the North American server in my Cromwell with 5 crew skills. But here at a good gun, or at least adequate gun, and here I just couldn't quite manage it. Eventually, though, I found myself in games where, my skill levels had gone up, the crew experience had gone out, I managed to max out the tank, and this next game is where things start to go well. And here we are on Kharkov, where we've picked up the game a minute and a half into it, and I've had some shots but missed on things trying to get across to that sort of circle. KV-1 has poked out, had a bit of a shot at a track, unfortunately missed that, but did manage to get some damage onto the turret, and possibly a second shot there. I certainly got some spotting damage. Maybe the ICV, the ICV-65 that pulled up next to me had got some shots in. I'm continuing to fire because I don't know whether he's been tracked. And there he is pulling back, and he's on about half his health. How much of that was mine? How much of that was the ICV sitting next to me? I'm not 100% sure. Here we go with an SU-122-44. Managed to get a shot on him, and I actually thought he was driving down to that round area, but in fact he's coming across. Another shot, and I'm potentially vulnerable here. The ICV's out in the open, definitely. See if I can get a shot at him through these windows here. You can actually shoot through the building. Did you know that? Through the corners here. Take a shot here. The shot went out, so I got through the building, but in fact I think he pulled out behind pulled back in cover behind the corner down there. So a bit dangerous. There's a T20 coming up, so I'm going to move away and have shots at the T34 85M. His armour's slightly better than the standard T34, but weaker perhaps at the sides. He took a shot at me, and in a remarkable coincidence, I actually bounced him. That's not something you're going to have happen often with that gun firing at you. Perhaps reflection. I know it's not in the rules. I know they say that doesn't happen, but I sometimes think with increased cruise skill you have an increased chance of bouncing enemy tanks' shots. They say that's not how it works. It's just a little suspicion I have from some experience of gameplay. T20, now he's hiding behind another tank. I'm going to struggle to get my gun to actually aim at him. He's not going to struggle to aim at me because I was partially in the open there. So all I could hope is that we can meet somehow in the open, and lo and behold, he grants me his wish. That's the nice thing about the Southeast Asian server. Sometimes the enemy are really quite cooperative and will grant you your wish, and in this case I'm able to use my greater mobility to do a circle round him and finish off the T20. Sometimes, of course, your own team will cooperate unnecessarily with the enemy, so it all ends up evening out. Perhaps just making, influencing the outcome of games a little less likely, but then again, if you are marginally better than the rest of the players, then perhaps you can expect to have outcomes marginally in your favour. I still think it's the ping rate that's going to make the biggest difference. And I think that difference, I still maintain my figure of around 1 or 2%. Anyway, how's this game going? Well, it looks like it's 9-10. They're now winning. That Struve is pretty bouncy on the turret, and I certainly bounced there, but he's come out. He got a shot into me, and I've managed to finish him off with a shot into the side. So as we have a look round now, that's sort of evened up the score a bit, but alas, one of our tanks has gone down. Artie took a shot at me there. I was lucky not to drive straight into it. The AT2 has got that T34 85M to deal with. I'm going to go back and see if I can help out because he's a one-shot. But the the AT2, should I say, has in fact finished him off. So I'm going to go around the outside, and of course, our T34-100 is now micromanaging my game, insisting that I go around the outside and chase Artie. I don't think that's the wisest thing here. I think we don't want to be... I don't want to run around the corner and find myself going face to face with a KV-2 either. I need a little judicious about the way I approach it. But there he is. He's on extremely low health. See if I can get round the back of him, because it looks like the AT2 is facing up, but no, the AT2 has finished him off. AT2 having a good game here. So it's the Hellcat. Now, the T-34 was desperately trying to get me to go after Artie. That's not going to be the plan. There he is, clicking away. I'm going after that Hellcat because the Hellcat is the one that's going to damage the Artie. But as it turns out, we've got an Artie here on the way, so I'm going to take a chance to knock him down. He fired and missed, and our Artie had a crack which well, could well have taken me down if I got round there in time. Auto aim and a drive-by shoot as I come after this Hellcat. Now he comes out, my shot misses, but I'm keen to chase him here. My best chance is if I can actually get into a running fight. And his gun, yeah, it's accurate, but on the run it's not going to be much more accurate than mine. And he's now got the problem of turning around and perhaps auto aiming on me. There's a shot that missed. He's got a longer reload. Go for the ram, see if I can bump him down. And yeah, didn't just bump him down, bumped him off. And of course, Artie, that's their Artie, seeing he's dead, goes in for a shot. Mind you, that shell arrived very quickly, didn't it? So perhaps the enemy Artie, shot him while he was still alive. Imagine your frustration at being killed by your own Artie if you're a Hellcat, if you've been left on, 5 or 6 hit points after that ram from me. But he could have been very close, and there he is. So the Griller comes out. He doesn't get a chance to get that shot in. I go for a second ram, but my shot in fact knocks him off, and our FV comes out. So that's that game. and a nice result. Even though it's only 5 kills, it was still my first ace tanker in the Cromwell on the Southeast Asian service, so one that I was pretty happy about. Picking up a Pascushi's medal as well for getting rid of those 2 Ardis near the end there, and a high caliber of as well, which is the thing that no doubt led me on to get the ace tanker for having done 2.3k damage and the commensurate XP that you would expect to get with that. And because I didn't fire any gold, managed to make nearly 20,000 credits out of that. Now this next video is a little bit of a diversion here. We're on Stalingrad and we're picking it up a few minutes into the game where, well, had a few shots and not a lot's happened. But our tanks have basically pinned them where the heavies are. I've been playing around in that area and I'm going to rush across here and see if I can join the flanking movement from the other side and we can come up the rear. Now note that WZ120 FT there, Navia _1. He's going to be instrumental in just a moment. He had some trouble getting around a mound, but not as much trouble as I'm about to have here as I get airborne and sideways and end up jumping on top of that VK friendly in front. Fortunately, I don't think I'm doing an awful lot of damage to him there. Collectively, 17, 19, 22 points of damage on him. So that's damage that I've caused. And that WZ, looks like he stopped. He fired. But it looks like 22 points of damage on him as well, best I can tell. So that's it. Now I didn't think much more of that. It was a bit careless of me. But this mortally offended the WT, as you will see in just a moment. Navia _1. Anyway, I'm much more focused on that IKV-90B in front, so I take some shots at. Looks like he may well be AFK, so I'll just sit here and finish him off. A Cromwell bangs me from the side. I pull back into cover, make sure that I'm safe, and bang! What the hell was that? Yes, that mortally offended WZ has come to teach me a lesson. That's right. He shot me 3 times, and now I'm dead, and he's been banned. Look, his tank is dead. The VK is giving him a little bit of a message. You know, the VK was the one that got nearly squashed by me. If anyone was going to get offended, it should have been the VK. And this is the sort of thing that happens time and time again on the Southeast Asian server. You see a lot more of that there than you do on the North American server, in my experience. And you know, I think someone comments later that he was a fornicating penis head, to which I heartily agree. And here we are on Abbey, moving out. In fact, I'm moving right into the rear of an Artie that has been backing up into me. Fortunately, he forgives me and doesn't shoot me, which, well, that's unusual on the Asian server, as I think we've just discovered. Yeah, whatever you do, don't even think about ramming someone. Oh, look at this A43. Of course, people do all the time. He's decided he's going to cut me off. He doesn't want me climbing up that hill and getting into the Abbey and getting into a good central position and doing well for the team. Well, he wasn't even going there himself. I managed to spot something, 2 tanks in fact, coming up here and go for a shot on the T-71. And fortunately the T-67 next to him manages to bounce a shot off me. So there we go, already evidence that we're on the Asian server in play. The A43, Elephant Hero. That's a very Asian sort of name, isn't it? Probably very cool for an Asian. Elephants are highly regarded in Southeast Asia. It sounds a little odd to us. It's probably as odd as lion-hearted probably sounds to someone from Southeast Asia, I guess. I don't really know. Cultural differences and all that. Anyway, we've managed to climb up into the driveway, find that the T-71 had already made it up there. And we managed to finish him off as he decides that maybe staying there is not a good idea. My concern was actually I was going to be pinged from behind from both the 1-2 line or the 2-line area there, plus a Crusader that's crawled around to the front, and there was also a type T-34 hiding behind those houses there. So I didn't want to be shot in the arse going up. I had actually not worked out that the T-71 had managed to climb up into the Abbey. Nevertheless, they don't look like a threat, and I don't think I'll go down there because, one way or another I'll get messed up in those buildings and there'll be things shooting at me, perhaps that T-67 from behind. Let's have a look at this M6 here and see if we can get some shots as he pokes out. Now note that the game seems a bit jittery, occasional red, so sometimes I am getting some server lag, potentially a factor of time of day. It's just possible I was running a YouTube video at the same time while I was waiting this to start. But I noticed my frame rate's down around 65, and I'm normally getting sort of 80 odd on the American server, so I suspect that's all to do with my video card and what else is going on this computer at the same time. Nevertheless, the ping is good at around 60 to 70 milliseconds. The VKH got a number of shots on there, and that Cromwell sitting out in the open. Now he's probably got his arse to me, doesn't quite realise where those shots are coming from, probably thinks they're coming from in front. Blind shot to finish him off and get the kill. So 2 kills already in this game. But alas, we're not doing so well. It's 5-9, that is, we've killed 5, and they've killed 9 of us. So, it could be a little bit awkward, but I kind of feel a bit pinned here. If I go out, there's that Poodle that might get shots across from the 2 line, there's a T-67 behind, some Arty that may have had a crack there, and I don't really want to get a shot from an OI experimental in the face. The T-34-85 is also aggressively moving across the front there. I think he's probably confused as to where my shots are coming. Still looking in the wrong direction, giving me an opportunity here to get some more shots into him and set him on fire for the kill. Well, that was handy, and it was nice of him to cooperate by sitting still in the open there for us. See if we can go back up to the other side. Now, that T-67 may well have been looking for shots at me, but has moved into cover and no longer is visible. So I'm going to go back here and make sure that he can't get some shots across the middle at me here. The M6 moving down the road there. See if we can get some shots into the rear. Alas, he's moving out of cover. Squeeze one off. Not quite. So we don't actually get the opportunity to get some shots. That would have been neat if we'd actually been able to do that at this point. Now, that OA experimental is driven all the way down the 9 line and is about to engage our T150. Unfortunately, don't have shots there, nor do we have shots on that T-67 who's advanced. But clearly the action's moved on and there's no point in staying up in the Abbey at this stage. I'm thinking I might want to go around and have a look at the T-67, so I'll drive forward, and as I'm doing that I have a look at the tank situation and the mini-map, and I kind of realise that, well, there's nothing sitting between me and 3 enemy Arty, and if I can finish them off, that would be extremely useful. So clearly they're going to be on the K line, aren't they? So I climb up here and have, oh, spotted what? Where the heck? Where? Oh, behind me. Yep, sitting forward because it's short range, the Gorilla, isn't it? So he nearly got a shot into me, and I have to loop around him. And unfortunately, while I finish him off, the M41 manages to get a shot into me. Try some blind fire, realise that's not going to work, and drive down. I'm going to come around and in front of his gun here, see if I can spot him in the bushes. His camo is good, isn't it? Do get the spot, moving across his front. I've auto-locked, so I'm just going to get the drive-by opportunity. And then we've got the GW. Now, I'll admit I made a bit of a mistake here. I looked at the mini-map, very quickly and thought he was hiding in that sort of little dip that you can see behind that big rock in front. But in fact, he was right there next to me, and I didn't realise until I'd driven right in front of his shot. And I think I had the opportunity to actually stop and pull back there. So I've now taken 2 hits from Arty, and I'm down to about a third of my hit points. That's kind of lucky, because I think either one of those tanks, if they'd fully hit me, could probably have one-shot me. I may be wrong about that, but certainly the GW Panther would have been extremely effective had he got a full shot into me there. So, all three arty are down. However, in the meantime, all but the M12, who actually has a really good game, are dead. And it's just me and him versus three heavies who could all be capping out right now. So it's a rush down to see whether I can have a look at the cap from this side, because if all three go on, it's trouble. Hello, minimap. What is that? Yes, well, that VK that I've been shooting at right at the beginning of the match doesn't seem to have moved. Now he's going to have a shot at me, and he misses, so I'm going to do the Cromwell thing, swing around his rear. He can't move his turret in time. He's all at sea, and finish him off. Now there's just two heavies, so it's 2 versus 2. The odds are now a lot more even and a lot healthier, but that OI experimental, he could, well, one shot and I'm gone. That M6, I'm probably 2 shots for him now, but it'll be close, won't it? Think about that. I think his damage is around 250, maybe 200, and I'm 243, so I could actually even be a one shot for him. So it's a little bit tricky. What am I going to do? Well, my first instinct was to cap, but I realised they could probably get 2 on cap before the arty gets here, and we'll lose on that basis. So I'm actually better off going up for a reset. Hopefully our M12 can get on cap, and that'll put some cap pressure. And in the meantime, both of their tanks had briefly touched the cap. Now, does that mean they'd gone off and come back? Perhaps they saw me capping. If so, what would they be thinking? Well, I'd be thinking they'd want to come fairly directly back towards their cap area. After all, their frontal armour will beat mine any day, so I expect them to be coming down the 4 line. So my idea is to get round the flank here, see if I can get some shots at the city, but no, I was wrong. There is that M6 going to drive right past him. I think he might have been a bit surprised to see me. Now, my instinct is to keep going, and the reason for that is I don't want to be trying to do that circling motion in a tank that will in fact clobber me with 1 or 2 shots. In fact, he gets a shot into my rear. I didn't expect him to come out and sit sideways. After all, I could have probably finished him off, and indeed arty did. Stopping here just to type to a message to arty to get them on cap, but in fact he's already driving there, so it was probably redundant. Shouldn't try and micromanage other players, should you? Anyway, he certainly got the message. He's now sitting on cap, which is great, and the OI briefly touched it and went off. So where is he? There he is. He fired behind me. I've got that shot. Quick dab of the 2 key, and yes, finished him off for 8 kills. And this represents a kind of coming of age video, I guess. Nice to get the ace tanker. Importantly, the Radley Walters medal, and that kind of says, wow, we've sort of made it. We're almost playing the Cromwell as well as we can play it on the American server. Even though the crew skills aren't up there yet, the difference in the ping rate, the interesting play on the Southeast Asian server with the propensity of your teammates to kill themselves, or kill each other at least, before they actually get into combat, and that tendency to lemming. That can sort of even things out a little bit, because of course it can happen to the opposition team as much as it can happen to your team, but it does make it a little harder to control. On the other hand, if the play itself isn't as good, then I guess you've got more chance of having a greater influence. It's a variable I don't really understand fully yet, and I'll have more to say about it in future videos, but there's clearly a difference there. But the win rate on the Cromwell here is now, around 56%. That's about the same as I've got on the American server, and I expect it to do better. Dimitri's medal, that was nice. 3 arties, always good to get, and the high caliber, and of course inheriting the Top Gun as a result of getting the Radley Walters medal. The team score, well ahead, but I pointed out that the arty, the M12, Kujak, from the CIV clan, the Civ clan, with 1800 damage, 1820 damage. That's pretty good in any arty, and at this tier it's particularly impressive with 3 kills. and played an instrumental role in securing us that game, although it might have been really interesting with the collar banders on the line as to how it might have worked out right at the end there. That M6, could he have taken me down if Artie hadn't have got me? Well, we'll never know, will we? But a great game from him. And in the end, when you have a look at the finances there, 12,000 credits made out of the game on a non-premium account, which isn't bad. I only fired one gold round, which is a bit unusual, but I really did need to get rid of that OI experimental at the end of this game. Thank you for getting all the way through this rather long video, going perhaps twice as long, maybe even 3 times as long as our normal videos, exceeding half an hour. Well, this channel is going to be around for a while. It could be that there's only 1 or 2 voices here because our clan is starting to slowly fade away. But it could be we re-emerge in this place with a different name.